Yeah, that was fantastic. After 11 weeks, it's so great to have all you other folks here watching these stories, listening to them. And I love that you were able to share these stories with you, and they were able to share their passion with you as well. We have a couple of questions that maybe we can throw to y'all. Our son Amir, y'all there? There you are. Yay! We don't have like the clap clap thing, but terrific work, all of you. Yeah, that was great focus, great determination. You guys made it all the way through. Hey, so we have there's three questions. I don't see any more, but there's three questions. But the first one is, what was the most challenging part of talking about science in story form? And then I think whoever wants to take that first, and maybe we can hear from all of you, because it'd be great to hear from all of you. What was the most challenging part of talking about science in science form, in this sort of this different narrative intelligence that you're using in order to communicate this? Marie, Arslan, Amir.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're first.
Oh, for me, it's hard to know which details are important to other people versus which details are important to just me. You know?
Yeah, how did you make that evaluation then?
Honestly, a lot of it was our peer-to-peer discussions about our stories.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, Arslan, how about you? What was the most difficult for you? Most challenging part?
So I think I mentioned this on the chat on the side. The toughest thing was definitely bringing the human out, because as scientists, we're extremely analytical and very black and white paper. Like we're writing in facts, so we speak in facts. And to sort of bring the inflection into our voices to elicit some sort of emotion in the audience was quite tough.
Interesting. Amir, how about you?
I want to echo Arsalan and Mary. One thing that I struggled with the most was to tell the story under any context other than the writing paper. And it was very difficult for me to talk about the science in a way that excited other people. It's exciting to the people in my field, most probably, but it's going to be difficult to excite other people to care about the problems that I do care about.
Oh, I felt you got me interested in flies, man. You
That's good.
You definitely connected your research to your passion. Did you have any thoughts on that? And then Rajiv and Amrita, maybe?
Yeah, so for me, everything was challenging. I usually only read nonfiction. I didn't participate in any theater group. I had like zero background coming to this course. And so everything from communicating scientific work to the general public, kind of going beyond my accent also was something really challenging. So it was an amazing course and an amazing way that we work together.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure working with you, with all of you as well. Rajiv, how about you? What was your most challenging aspect?
I think it's to follow up on what's the previous comments here is essentially that, bringing out, connecting two worlds, I think, one is to the listener, another to the storyteller. And I think that's a especially special trick and a challenge, because I think in science, we just give facts, as they're said. So we list them as facts. But I think when you take someone on this emotional journey, you bring a much bigger special connection, I think. And I think that was challenging because as a scientist, as I said, you're trained to just list facts. A goes to B and B goes to C. And I think there's so many aspects to the work that we do that I think through storytelling we can really bring about. And it was really, really amazing to listen to the other storytellers here and see that their science stories, not just A goes to B and B goes to C, but there's a lot more things going on beyond that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amruta, do you want to weigh in on this? What's challenging for you?
So The question is like, what was the hardest thing for me in
Well,
this?
yeah, what's most challenging? Yeah, absolutely. The hardest and most challenging thing for you to tell a story, a science story to us.
The most challenging for me is telling the story itself, like that part, like because I have like no background and like whatsoever in presenting things. Like nobody teaches you how to do that. People teach you how to do science, but not how to communicate it.
Right.
Like pauses and stuff, and like emphasizing things. And we have been learning that for a few weeks, but then to do it in front of other people against all your nerves, it's just.
Yeah. One of the things that came up for me, I know that Rajiv and I were talking a little bit about some commentary that he had gotten from a few of his colleagues when he was taking the storytelling class a couple of years ago, is that the idea of sensationalizing science, that if you're going to tell a story, you're essentially getting outside of the laboratory and representing your lab, you're representing your research, and you're sensational. I think that was the word that you told me that one of your colleagues had used. I found an interesting word that's kind of really loaded in many ways. If you're enthusiastic and passionate about your science, like all of you are, and you are the next generation of scientists that are really going to be the mentors for these younger kids that are coming up, this idea of sensationalizing science. I want, if you guys want to talk about that a little bit. This is that a negative thing to sensation? Like using that word sensationalize, because I think when the colleague was using it, I think in a kind of a kind of negative sense. I think I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, Arson.
I want to talk about this. So sensationalize. I want to focus just on the sensation part. I think it can actually be spun into something positive. We do want to elicit some sort of sensations in the audience to feel something. It's not just we're all scientists in a lab looking into a microscope and just like looking at little petri dishes of things. I mean, we're human beings and we feel a certain way towards science, and getting more people to have some sensation towards it would be fantastic. And if we can aid in that and be vehicles for that, I think that's good. I think that's good. Before I do give the mic back to you, I want to give a shout out to my family. I think they're awake over in the UK watching right now. So thank you.
Oh, great. The power of technology. Anyone else want to tackle that idea of sensation? Yeah, sensational, Amir?
I think it depends. If you want to write papers by sensationalizing the results, I'm not sure if I agree with that. But if we want to make people excited about something, I completely agree with Arslan. And I think that it's very important to tell people in a sense, in an excited manner, so they would actually be they would be excited about the science that the scientists do, and they would pay more attention. Hopefully, next generation will be as excited as this generation, and probably even more excited.
Good point. Anyone else?
Can I add on to what Amir said about the whole sensationalizing inside papers? That's not a thing that happens, but I think we need to be careful about the connotations of sensationalizing, because the science is exciting on its own, but then we have this thing that does happen in our fields where the journalists come and they interview you and they look at your results and you tell them things, and then they go and write nonsense. Like, that's sensationalizing. There was a paper or a journal article, I don't know what to call it, an article by a journalist, not a journal article.
Okay.
That says some ridiculous thing where the particle physicist found the mirror universe. Like, that's sensationalizing, and it's wrong. Like, it just didn't rule out the mirror universe, but there's a million more plausible theories.
So it sounds like, how do we empower that word and sort of maybe take it out of its negative connotation into owning that owning that word and sort of reframing it. That's interesting. Any other thoughts on this?
But I thought, I just want to chime in on that. Is just and I guess the journalist's job is to somehow communicate the stuff that we're doing to the mass public. And I think, I don't, let's say, condone necessarily it's spreading wrong information, but I think maybe that's where a scientist, where we're getting trained in this kind of practice, maybe we can take ownership of this, and rather than relying on others to do that communication. And I think that's the point of this. the lesson here, the theme.
Yeah, well, that's great. We also had another question: is how is we talked about this in class a bit, but how is the COVID-19 impacting your research outlook and agenda? I know a lot of you talked about a little bit about isolation and being, away from your groups and not being able to walk down the hall and, knock on your colleague's door and, chat with them. And, how has this really affected and impacted your research outlook and agenda?
I'm sorry, Marie. Speaking as a guy who predominantly does modeling and does no experimental work, yeah, I'm carrying on as normal. Just coding away. But I can see within my group as well, those who do experimental work, I mean, this is like torture. It really sucks because you've trained your entire life. This is it. This is your passion. You love being down in the lab. You're working with real, what I would term as like real science. That's where it happens.
Yeah.
We just sit and philosophize about it. Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm really sorry, Marie.
So we also have another question. Anyone else want to take that? We got a couple more questions here. Interesting one. How many iterations of the writing process did you go through before you felt you perfected your story? Yeah, Amir?
I don't think that I haven't perfected the story yet, so I'll let you know when I get there.
But you did about what, maybe how many iterations do you think you did of your story?
For the synergy one, I think I did 3. For the science one, I did 2.
Yeah. Avi, what do you remember? You did quite a few.
Yeah, definitely. So I have like 16 official versions that I sent to people and got feedback, and it's still not like completed and finalized, but at least 16 versions.
Yeah. Marie, you went through a few iterations of your, well, actually you did, yeah, talk about your process.
So I'm good at writing. I'm not good at speaking. So I'd have a story nicely weighed out, and Brian be like, let's tweak here and let's tweak there and stop reading and look at me, and he didn't say it mean like it was fun, but so the iterations of the rough drafts themselves are not so much, but the speaking it and trying to, I don't know what to call it, get off book and not fall back on that. That was a lot of those.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this? We have another one interesting question. Would you have spent as much time on this storytelling if it was not COVID-19?
You mean just specifically to the storytelling itself? Just wanted to understand the context of this question.
I think it's, would you have spent as much time on this storytelling if it was not for, well, it was a class, so you signed up for the class, but did you spend as much time on this, on these stories that you would if it was like, if we were not under COVID-19? I guess that's more.
I think I did. Yeah, I think I spent more time on it because given that I can't go outside and socialize, this was an outlet. So it was a way of, doing something which wasn't to do with, I mean, it's still to do with science, but it's got some spices added to it. So it's nice, flavorful writing. Yeah, it was good fun.
Anyone else?
For me, I'd heard about this class back when Brian and I were doing a musical together. And I kind of always wanted to take it, but I could never find the time. I was always running around, was always not in the state, that kind of thing. And then when it went online, it kind of served 2 purposes. One, I could finally take it. And the other, I really looked forward to the connection and the bearing of our souls during our time together.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Get that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Amir.
I think that I always wanted to, I think you told me about this class around like 18 months ago for the first time. And I always wanted to take it, but I kind of had issue with the time of the class, 7 to 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. So because Wednesdays is pretty difficult day for me. So I want to finish my day before 9 p.m. So that's why I never really took this class before, but changing the format to online helped me to finally take it. I'm really glad that I did.
Oh, that's great. And then I think anyone else? Anyone else talk about?
Oh yeah, I'll just put it very simply. I literally wouldn't be able to take the class if it wasn't online.
Yeah.
Because I'm not physically there down in Pasadena. So, so yeah, simple as that.
And this is your second.
Right?
This is
Yeah,
your second or,
I'm physically not there, right?
this is your second or third time jumping into this too, or at least second time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think this opens up, this whole one thing I've realized from this COVID-19 pandemic is, for example, Arslan's possible a family joining in from the UK. I mean, that is something. I think it has. It's time to also rethink maybe in the future when we return to campus. How you want to, because I thought it was really cool that you can involve, even past alumni like Utkarsh, who's not based here, could come into classes, and you could involve the rest of the world beyond Caltech, like alumni, and so that's my comment on that. But it definitely it was restrictive, this whole pandemic, but also I got a comment right there. Do my story, okay? So it definitely opens up I think it opened us up in many ways rather than just boxed us in. So I thought that was another perspective to this whole thing.
Sure. How about you, Avi?
So I think that the course itself was motivating. I'm doing as much work now as I usually do. It's just different work. Usually I run more experiment, and now it's more computational work. So it shifted a little bit, but like it's still, the intensity is high, but like the course itself motivates me to put on more time into it. And definitely, I think it was great.
I'm looking at some of the, we're going to have to wrap it up here in the next 10 minutes, but I've been seeing some really sweet comments here from some, and it's really great to see some folks here who have been in the class in the past. I see David Brown and Michael Wong, and I think Jenny's there, and Grant Remen, Doug Smith is on here, David Brown, I said, and it's really great to see y'all here. I think I saw Heidi on here for a while. It was really great that those folks came in and participated, because they've been involved with this and helping shape the class over the last 5-6 years. And the thing that I noticed over the last 10 weeks is that there was a lot of intimacy that was shared in terms of even though we were in this kind of this virtual little box. I think we were able to share more in some ways that in our classes, when we're physically present with people, and maybe it's just because we're kind of in these little boxes that we can, talk with each other in a different kind of way. I really found that there was this space that opened up that and gave us a little bit of time to kind of explore the awkwardness of silence at times, that we didn't have to fill it right away, although it was pretty much filled most of the time when we were all together. Here's a nice comment from someone. I don't know if you heard this one. What draws me into here is the story of how you became interested in your science, and that makes it personal, and it helps the beginner, as she says, her, to understand it. So she really liked how all of you connected your personal lives, personal story with your science passion. So I think that y'all really nailed that. You really able to connect those two, your passion and your own intelligence, with a certain je ne sais quoi that made us all very excited by it. All right, I think there's one more thing here. There's an editor of the Caltech magazine for 3 decades, and he wanted to talk about sensationalization. And he says it's incumbent on the journalist to get the facts right? On the other hand, it's incumbent on the scientist to help them along, dispense that trail of breadcrumbs with a liberal hand, not a, I think conservative liberal, I don't think it's liberal, right? Just generous. Don't answer a question trying to clarify jargon with more jargon, and bear with them. In general, a reporter gets one shot at the source, and it's catch as catch can. And yeah, so I think that was kind of fun. That this doesn't happen when you're on the outside. When you're on the inside trying to figure this thing out, you have to help your readers out in connecting with your story. Any other, as we kind of finish up here, any final thoughts y'all had? I love the enthusiasm, the perspectives. Not easy performing without a physical audience. Great. I think that's great. That was, I don't know if any of you watch sort of late night television, a lot of the comics. That's one of the things that they talk about that they miss the most is having that live audience to see if your joke is going to land. You see if people hear it. They have that relationship, that call and response. I know I laughed at most all your stuff when you hit it, and it encouraged you on, and I was there clapping for you. But I think that's a really good observation. You don't have that audience interaction, when you're telling your story. You just have us, and we can see Amrutha smile, or Marie shaking her head, or Avi going, oh no, or whatever it might be. We're always getting that feedback, that nonverbal feedback, which is really terrific. Any other thoughts you guys have as we close this thing out? Anything you learned about yourself over the last 10 weeks that we've been together? Or anything, favorite exercises that you guys had that you want to pass on?
Yeah, so one of the things that we used to start every class with was just saying crazy phrases. Like just stretching around and just, loosening up. And I find myself, I actually do that now before like job interviews or job talks. I never realized being silly was a valuable skill. Yeah, I think that's the thing I'm going to take away.
Oh, sorry, I got dropped off for a bit.
Hi there.
Yeah, sorry, my internet plunked off for a minute, and yeah, so I'm back again.
We were talking about over the last 10 weeks, things that you walk away with, or something you discovered about yourself and stuff that you hadn't about before.
So in the last few weeks, I think I kind of realized that I have stories to tell about my life. That this has been an interesting journey so far, and digging up those stories, I never thought of those experiences in details. So much you live through things, and then you just keep going. You're always focused forward instead of backwards. And so that's, I think, one of the interesting things I learned. And I realized the more you look into a particular instance of thing, the more and more memories you can recollect from that point, or exactly how things happened.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, you realize the more you start to tell and investigate these stories, the more stories you have.
Exactly. Unlike the more you keep finding the details of what happened, and that's interesting.
It's a good point, because always for me it's the details, like when they go from their large, broad idea of things, but then getting right down to the details of Punjabi driver yelling at you. Just those little things are really. Amir, anything you kind of learned about yourself, or?
I think I kind of mentioned this, alluded to this. I had issue with telling my passion about science and talking about my science to other people, and taking this class and going through these exercises to talk about other scientists who are not in my field and trying to make them excited about this. Yeah. I think that was a valuable thing that I practiced a lot during this course.
Yeah. And Avi and Marie, that's a kind of final thoughts about what did you learn about yourself over the term, or what do you walk away with? What kind of tools do you use as you walk away from this?
Yeah, I'm going away with a lot of tools, but I feel also that the journey continues. It was a lot of self-reflection work, trying to figure out for myself what makes me excited about my science and about the journey that I'm going through. And thank you very much for everything, Brian.
No, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Marie, have any final thoughts?
I really liked the breathing exercises.
Me too. And then we have one final question. I'd like this one. Could science public talks meant for general audience be replaced by such storytelling sessions as that's more appealing to a general audience? How do you feel about that?
I like that.
Huh?
I like that.
Yeah.
The only thing is sometimes all of the things that you research or study doesn't really add up to a story. Sometimes trying too hard to find a story in your narrative and your data is also not very fruitful. So sometimes you won't really, like some of the sciences, until you find out what's going on, it's just really hard to tell a story. But otherwise, I think it's a doable thing.
Yeah.
I think maybe using the stories as a sales pitch, that might help. Because Amrita raises a really good point of we don't always have the story. That's what research is all about, right? You spend years on this, but just being able to convince someone to join you on that journey,
yeah.
I think that would be pretty valuable.
Yeah. All right, as we close out here, I just wanted a few people to thank. I want to thank Leslie Maxfield and her team, who are just fantastic, making all of this thing flow in such a beautiful way. I could not have done this. I would have been a nervous wreck had I had to do any of this. So Gina and Leslie, Mazel Tov, is fantastic. Thank you so much for making this as seamless and fluid as possible. I want to thank Barbie Insua, who did the graphic design for our class, which I loved it so much. I want to just thank a couple of our sponsors and a few folks on campus that have really been supportive of the work we're doing here, Storytelling for Scientists with President Rosenbaum and Professor Faber, Joe Shepard, and so many other people on campus. Glenn Price, who's my boss, who's been really supportive of the work that we're doing. Cindy DeMesa, who's always been there as well in my department. And for all of you who showed up, who are still here, we still have 30 people here online, including us, which is really terrific. So we always end with one word. Should we end with our final word? Like what this was? You all have a word, and it's my last page of my notebook that started on May 7th. And it's been like 60 pages that have led us to this moment right now. So what are your final words?
I think it was very fun.
Fun. Adrenaline, for sure.
I would say adab.
Adab. Meaning respect. What else?
Perspective.
Perspective, yep.
Journey, I think.
Journey, absolutely right, journey.
I'm going to end it with sensational.
Sensational. You almost stole my word there, Reggie. I would say gratitude. Gratitude for all you folks out there, David Brown and company. Thank you all for showing up. Muir and company, thank you all for joining us and being part of this. And again, thanks to Leslie Maxfield and her team for making this thing happen. So, namaste all.
And thank you to Brian for taking us through this journey for so many weeks during the pandemic and so many other things happening in the last few weeks. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian, thank you.
I will miss you all.
Thank you.